He was already leaving, cold, certain, when a single sentence in Arabic cut through the air and made time stop. Amina Collins, an executive who has hidden part of herself to survive in the corporate game, has just been given 72 hours to prove that authenticity is worth more than polished facades. From Manhattan's glass towers to Newark's rain-soaked streets, she races the clock to turn real lives into a story. No false glamour, no shortcuts. This isn't about numbers. It's about people, belonging, and courage. If she fails, she loses the client, her career, and herself. If she wins, she changes the rules. Subscribe now to follow this journey. Like the video to help it reach more people, and share in the comments where in the world you're watching from. We want to hear your story too. Now, let's get into the story. The morning light over Manhattan was a pale, hesitant thing, filtered through the thick cloud cover that had settled over the city since dawn. A dull gray haze clung to the skyline, softening the sharp edges of skyscrapers and muting the usual electric pulse of Midtown. It was one of those New York days that felt suspended. Neither winter nor spring, neither warm nor cold, just a liminal space where everything waited to exhale. The air smelled faintly of wet pavement and exhaust, the residue of an overnight drizzle. Cars moved slowly down 6th Avenue, their tires hissing over the damp asphalt, while pedestrians hurried past with collars turned up and umbrellas half opened, bracing against the possibility of another downpour. Inside the glass and steel tower of the Collins and Vale building, the atmosphere was anything but uncertain. On the 34th floor, in the agency's main boardroom, tension crackled beneath polished decorum. The room was long and narrow, its northern wall entirely glass, offering a panoramic view of Bryant Park and the distant spire of the Empire State Building. The southern wall held built-in credenzas, sleek and black with award plaques and prototypes. A massive oval table of white oak dominated the center, surrounded by 12 leather chairs, each occupied now by someone holding their breath. At the head sat Amina Collins, her spine straight, her hands folded tightly in her lap. She wore a navy blue tailored suit with a white blouse, the fabric slightly wrinkled from a restless night. Her dark curls were pulled back into a low bun, a few strands escaping near her temples. Her eyes searched for confidence, but found none. Across from her, arms crossed, one ankle resting on the opposite knee, sat Lawrence Vale, the agency's CEO and her boss. His silver hair was sharply combed, his face carefully composed, but the muscle in his jaw betrayed nerves. He wore a charcoal Italian suit and a red silk tie. He had spent 20 minutes trying to convince Khalid Al-Farouk not to walk away from the deal. Khalid, at the end of the table, looked ready to do just that. He was a man of quiet presence, his stillness more commanding than any outburst. Dressed in a black cashmere coat over a charcoal suit, he had removed the coat reluctantly, draping it over his chair. His features were sharp, high cheekbones, a strong jaw, dark eyes that missed nothing. A silver watch gleamed on his wrist. He ignored the espresso before him, not smiling or nodding. He simply listened. That was all. Now, as Lawrence finished his pitch, a rehearsed monologue about synergy, brand evolution, and cultural resonance, Khalid exhaled slowly, releasing the room's weight. "Thank you, Mr. Vale," he said, low and measured, each word precise. "You've made your case." Lawrence's shoulders lifted slightly. "And?" Khalid didn't answer immediately. He turned to the window where clouds were breaking, letting in slivers of sunlight spilling across Bryant Park. A few people emerged from the subway, shaking umbrellas, checking phones. Somewhere, a saxophone played a mournful melody. Khalid reviewed the proposal, its digital strategy, influencer outreach, visual identity, calling it technically sound. But he said, "They are not authentic. They are not true." The word hung like smoke. Lawrence argued that authenticity was subjective, citing focus groups and algorithmic projections. Khalid cut him off sharply. You show me focus groups and projections, but you do not tell me who I am, not to my community, not to the people who know my name because of what I've built, Khalid said calmly, eyes steady. He paused, letting silence settle. You've created a campaign that treats me like a brand extension of Dubai tourism. But I am not a resort. I am a man, son, father, someone who grew up in a refugee camp. I do not see that man in your presentations or insights, Khalid said, voice firm. Amina felt her chest tighten. She knew this would be difficult, but hadn't expected such dismantling of their work. 6 weeks of sleepless nights, revisions, and strategy sessions. Their deal, meant to save the agency, was slipping away. Khalid's interest in rebranding his foundation had been a lifeline. Now it was threatened. Lawrence tried to revise the timeline. We have time, but Khalid interrupted. You had 6 weeks, access to my team, my history. If you cannot show me something real now, you won't later. He reached for his coat. Amina's breath caught. She hadn't planned to speak. As Khalid rose, she decided she couldn't stay silent anymore. Mr. Al-Farouk, she said steadily. He turned. The room seemed to shrink. Lawrence shot her a warning look, but she didn't look at him. We failed to show the full picture, but we can. We want to, she said, voice firm. Khalid studied her. And how would you do that? She was asked. She took a deep breath and began to speak in fluent Arabic, the soft cadence of Jordanian inflection. Because I know what it means to carry 2 worlds inside you, to speak one language at home and another at school, to love your country but feel like a guest in it, she began. She explained her background, being born here, speaking both languages, feeling seen as other. Silence froze the room. Khalid looked at her with recognition. You speak Arabic, he said, almost a question. I do, she replied. My mother is Jordanian. My father is African American. I grew up in Queens, between languages, between worlds. Khalid stepped forward, intrigued. And now you think it is, she said. Because I believe authenticity starts with truth, she said. You're not just a billionaire. You started a school in Amman, fun programs in Newark, Detroit. Education is your real inheritance. She paused. Give us 3 days and a half to build a campaign that shows that. Not with stock images or voiceovers, but with real people. Your voice, their voices. The room went utterly still. Lawrence finally spoke, tense. Amina, this isn't the time. It is, she interrupted. This is what he wants. The campaign should have been from the start. Khalid looked at her, then smiled faintly. 72 hours, he said in Arabic. You have until Friday at 3 in the afternoon. Present me with a campaign rooted in reality. No gloss, no spin. Amina nodded. It will be. He looked around. I will deal with her from now on. Khalid gathered his coat. I'll be in touch. My team will send access to my archives and contacts in the community. He walked out, leaving the room silent. Elena exhaled. Did that just happen? Lawrence said, Amina, my office, now. He left quickly, footsteps echoing. Amina took a deep breath. Her team looked at her. Julian, stunned, said, You spoke Arabic. You've never said a word. I didn't think it mattered, she answered, trembling still. Elena whispered, It was beautiful. It's just the truth, Amina replied. Raj asked, So, 3 days to build a campaign? Yes, she said, shoulders squared. And we start now. She gathered her things. Mateo caught her arm. That was brave, he said quietly. She met his eyes. I didn't feel brave. I was terrified. Same here, she nodded, walking out. Lawrence's office was at the end of the hall, all glass and steel. He was behind his desk, arms folded, staring out. "You had no right," he said. "I saved the deal," she replied. "You undermined me in front of everyone." She explained she spoke up because no one else did. He was furious. "You think I don't know that? But we don't burn bridges to build them." "You went rogue, Amina. That's manipulation," he said. "It's not if it's true," she retorted, voice steady. "I've delivered every campaign on time." "And I've grown this team," she added. "You've never let me lead a pitch like this because you don't trust me. That's why Khalid walked away. I gave him something real, not manipulation, honesty." He exhaled sharply, idiomatic about trust and protocol. "You think this is about that? This is about chain of command," he said. "When the client walks out, do we follow the rules or lose the client?" She stepped closer. "I'm done asking permission. I'm running this." "I'll keep you informed," she said. "I respect the budget, but I do it my way, or I walk." He stared at her. Silence. Finally, he said, "You have 3 days. Don't fail." She nodded and left her office. Back at her desk, she opened her laptop and typed at the top, "The Real Legacy, a campaign for Khalid al-Farouk." She started writing. By 8:47 in the evening, the office had emptied. The lights were off, but her lamp illuminated her work. She drafted the campaign outline, mapped the story, scheduled the Newark shoot, called interviewees. Her phone buzzed. A message from her mother appeared. "Saw Lawrence on LinkedIn. Said you had a big meeting today. Everything okay?" Amina hesitated. "It went well. I spoke Arabic today in front of everyone." Her mother replied instantly, "My heart. I'm proud of you." She smiled, exhausted, shoulders aching. Her throat was dry, but she felt she was doing work that mattered. She saved the document, shut her laptop, stood. Outside, stars dotted the sky. The clouds parted. She stepped onto the sidewalk, smiling as she walked toward the subway. Somewhere, a jazz trio played in a basement club. The notes floated through a vent. A couple laughed under a street lamp. A cyclist zipped past, ringing his bell. She pulled her coat tighter. 72 hours. She was ready. Next morning, she woke at 5:15. Her apartment in Chelsea was small but hers. She made coffee, dressed quickly, black turtleneck and jeans, laced her boots, tied her messy bun. The early spring air carried blooming forsythia. She left, taking the PATH train to Newark. The city's contradictions came into view: street art and boarded-up shops, luxury condos and old row houses. She arrived early, outside the Al-Farouk Youth Center with her crew ready. Matteo set up the camera, Julian scribbled questions, Elena tested the recorder. "You're early," Matteo said. "So are you," Amina replied. They shared tired smiles. First interview, Marta Rivera, who knew the neighborhood story well. Marta had farmed her family's corner store for 30 years. "Families come and go," she said. "Kids grow up and leave, but the community is alive. We don't need pity. We need respect," she emphasized, filming her passion. She spoke about Khalid's foundation funding after-school programs. "My grandson Diego was failing math. Now he's in honors. Because someone cared enough to pay for extra help," she explained. "It's about seeing people, not money." Next was Hassan, at the gym in a church basement. "Troubled? No," he said. "They're hungry for discipline, for belief. Khalid comes monthly, talks, listens. Not many rich men do that." She filmed the calloused hands, focused eyes. By noon, they'd interviewed students, a teacher, and a mother. The raw footage showed power and authenticity. Returning home, she edited until early morning hours. "Legacy is not just buildings," she narrated softly in her voice. She closed her eyes, whispering, "We're going to do this." 70 hours and 42 minutes remained. She believed in her work. The city was quiet, stars bright, clouds gone, promise in her heart. She was ready to tell a true story. The dawn over Chelsea was thin and watery, seeping through curtains without much light. Amina Collins woke to her phone vibrating against the nightstand. Her eyes fluttered open, still heavy, but her mind racing. She reached for the phone, squinting at the screen. 7:02 a.m. A message from Mateo. Footage backed up. Audio clean. We're good to go. She exhaled, rolling onto her back. The ceiling had a small fissure since she moved in. Like many things, it had slipped through the cracks. She sat up slowly, muscles protesting. Her clothes, boots laced half, laptop beside her. The rough cut from yesterday played. Marta smoothing dollar bills, Hassan adjusting a boy's stance, Layla speaking quietly about college and change. Amina closed the laptop, swung her legs over the bed. Her reflection showed tired eyes, frizzed hair, chapped lips, but also a flicker of resolve, a sense of ownership. She stepped into a hot shower, steam fogging the glass. She pressed her palms to the tiles, letting the heat work into her shoulders. Water washed away stiffness and doubt, echoing Lawrence's voice. You went rogue. She didn't regret it. Wrapped in a towel, she dressed in thermal, sweater, dark jeans, leather boots. Her hair in a high ponytail, a few curls loose, minimal makeup. She wasn't impressing, but listening. By 7:48, she left with coffee, city humming, carrying the scent of roasted beans and last night's rain. A delivery van rattled. A street sweeper moved slowly. She took the subway downtown, then transferred to the path to Newark, arriving shortly after 8:30. The crew unloaded equipment from Mateo's battered Honda. Julian paced, scrolling on his phone, Elena setting up an audio recorder. You look like you slept, Mateo said, offering another coffee. I didn't, she replied gratefully, but I'm here. The morning was at the community garden. Khalid's foundation funded hydroponics for at-risk youth. Afternoon focused on interviews with former students. They filmed in a narrow garden between brick buildings with raised beds. Darius, a lean boy with quiet intensity, agreed to speak. This place, he gestured, taught me how to grow something. Not just plants. Me. She watched him, her voice soft, asking about trust and dreams. Darius spoke of his past, juvie, fearing he'd end up locked or dead. Khalid's team didn't see him as a lost cause. They gave him a job, taught him about soil and responsibility. Now he wanted to study agriculture, start an urban farm. Amina nodded, asking what he'd tell those who see these programs as charity. Charity gives you a fish. This taught me how to fish and build the pond, he answered. She smiled, saying, That's good. They filmed close-ups of plants and time lapses. As they packed up, Elena approached. We've got a problem, she said softly. Jalen, the college student, texted. He's not sure he wants to do the interview. Amina frowned. Why? She explained he didn't want to be seen as the success story that erases struggles. Amina understood. She called Jalen. His cautious voice answered. I appreciate Mr. Al-Farouk's help, he said, but I don't want to be the poster boy. It wasn't easy. Amina urged him to tell the truth, the good, the hard, the struggles, and to be authentic. He paused, then asked, You mean that? Yes, she replied, and I'll make sure it's edited that way. No gloss, no spin. He agreed to do it on his terms. They met at Rutgers Newark. Jalen arrived in a hoodie, backpack, taller than expected, nervous. They filmed under a sycamore, casting dappled shadows. Amina asked about his first week. I didn't know how to do laundry, he said, showing his insecurities. My mom always did it. I showed up with 2 weeks of dirty clothes. The crew chuckled. Jalen shared about missing home-cooked food, calling his grandma every night. He nearly dropped out, failing classes, feeling out of place. The foundation's counselor helped. She made it possible to keep going. Silence filled the chat. respecting his honesty. He looked up, talking of graduation, a job in Atlanta, but a love for Newark. I want to give back. That's what I learned. Not just how to survive, but how to return. The camera kept rolling as time passed. They headed to the last interview. A van ride brought them to Samira's shop on Broad Street. Dark clouds sat heavy. Her space was cluttered with phones and tools. Petite, sharp-eyed, she wiped her hands, asking if they wanted her story. Not about the money, she said, but about responsibility. She explained how a grant helped her employ others. The grant was a trust, like a loan, she said. He bet on me. I can't lose, not just for me, but for everyone after. She warned about the false ideas some have of grants being handouts or free money. As rain began to fall, she paused. Some see grants as charity, but they're loans in trust. That's the real story. She looked at Amina, emphasizing the importance of responsibility in the narrative. Just as the storm unleashed, they finished filming. In Manhattan, the storm intensified. Rain lashed streets, umbrellas inverted. Amina sat in her office, uploading footage. Marta giving groceries, Hassan correcting stance, Darius checking pH. She edited a sequence, no music, just ambient sounds. Layering her voice softly, legacy isn't only in buildings or wealth. Sometimes it's a boy passing algebra, a girl in the ring, a community scene. She paused, receiving Lawrence's message about media strategy, brand safety, and crisis comms. She closed her eyes, feeling the weight of control and fear. She typed a quick response about a phased rollout. Community portraits, Foundation's role, Khalid's story, social snippets, local ads. No influencers, no celebrities, just authenticity. She attached the outline, then began editing her first draft film. 12 minutes, raw and intimate. Saved it under Real Legacy Draft 3 and turned off her laptop. The rain continued, tapping against the window like testing fingers. She stretched, shoulders aching, eyes burning. She was still working, sketching storyboards for tomorrow, interviews with Khalid's team, footage from Jordan, scenes with letters from students. Her phone buzzed again, this time from her mother. Saw your LinkedIn. Creative lead on Al Farouk campaign. I knew you could do it. Baba would be proud. Amina's throat tightened. Her father died when she was 12. A postal worker, jazz lover, a quiet man who told her, "You carry both worlds, baby." She responded, "I'm trying, Mama. I'm really trying." She turned off the light, walking home through the rain. The city was silent, streets slick, neon colors reflected in puddles. A saxophonist played muffled music under an awning. She kept walking into the night. With 60 hours and 2 minutes left, she felt just beginning. Her resolve was rising. The work, unseen but vital, was only just starting. The third day of the 72-hour countdown began, not with alarm, but with rain. Steady, unrelenting, the kind that turns sidewalks into mirrors and makes the city feel like it's dissolving at the edges. Amina woke at 5:38 in the morning to the rhythmic tap of droplets. Her body ached from 2 nights of insufficient sleep. Her back was stiff from hunching over her laptop. Her eyes were dry and grainy. She reached for her phone on the nightstand, half expecting a message from Lawrence or one of the crew. The screen remained dark. She sat up slowly. The Murphy bed creaked as it released her weight. The apartment was cold. She had forgotten to turn up the heat the night before. The damp chill of the storm had crept in through the thin walls. She pulled on a thick sweater over her sleep shirt and laced her boots without socks. Moving to the kitchenette, she made coffee. The French press was stained from yesterday's brew, but she didn't care. She filled it with water, measured the grounds, and set it on the hot plate. While the water heated, she opened her notebook to the previous night's scribbles. Her handwriting was jagged, uneven, the product of exhaustion and urgency. She traced over one phrase. Legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's what you lift up. She underlined it twice. The coffee was bitter when she poured it, but she drank it anyway, standing at the window. She watched the rain blur the brick wall across the alley. Somewhere below, a delivery truck hissed to a stop, its brakes releasing steam. A man in a yellow raincoat jogged past, hood pulled low, headphones in. The city was already moving, indifferent to her deadline, her stress, her quiet desperation. By 6:15 in the morning, she was out the door with coffee in a to-go cup and a reusable tote over her shoulder. The air smelled of wet pavement and fried food. Umbrellas bobbed like mushrooms along the sidewalks. She took the subway downtown, then the path to Newark, arriving at the youth center just after 7:30. The crew was already there, huddled under the awning, waiting for the rain to ease. Mateo was wiping the camera with a microfiber cloth. Julian had his notebook open, reviewing questions. Elena was on her phone, frowning. "Bad news?" Amina asked, stepping under the shelter. Elena handed her the phone. "Khalid's chief operating officer again. They want answers to a list of brand alignment concerns. They're worried the campaign is too localized, lacks aspirational tone, and doesn't sufficiently highlight Mr. Al-Farouk's global influence." Amina read the email, her stomach tightening. It was corporate speak for, make it safer, make it glossier, make it less real. She handed the phone back. "We're not changing the vision." Julian looked up. "Lawrence is going to freak out. He just called me. He wants us to reposition the narrative. Add footage of Khalid at Galas, his Dubai office." Amina exhaled sharply. "No!" "He says it's non-negotiable," Julian pressed. "If we don't include some high-value imagery, they might pull funding." She faced the crew. "Listen to me. We're not making a commercial. We're telling a story. About impact, about people. If they want glossy, hire an ad agency." Mateo nodded. "I'm with you." Elena bit her lip. "I just don't want to get fired." "You won't," Amina said firmly, "because we're going to deliver something powerful that they can't ignore. And if they walk away, they weren't the right client anyway." A silence settled, broken only by the rain. Julian closed his notebook. "All right, so what's the plan?" "We stick to the schedule," Amina said. "We film foundation interviews today, then we go to the Jordan office via Zoom for archival footage, and finish with a surprise." "Surprise?" Elena asked. Amina smiled faintly. "I called Khalid's assistant last night. He agreed to let me interview him privately, off the record, just for tone. No camera, only audio. I want to understand his voice, his rhythm, how he talks about the work." Julian whistled. "You got him to agree to that?" "I told him I needed to hear the man behind the name," she said. "He said yes. 4 in the afternoon." The rain began to ease. By 8:15 in the morning, the clouds thinned enough to let weak shafts of light through. Inside the youth center, they set up in a small conference room with cinder block walls and fluorescent lights. The first interview was with Nia Thompson, the foundation's Newark program director, a tall woman in her 40s with a calm presence and a no-nonsense demeanor. She had been with the organization since its inception, seen students graduate, relapse, return, succeed. Amina sat across from her, the recorder between them. "Tell me about the first time you met Khalid," she said. Nia smiled. "It wasn't what I expected. No entourage, no security. Just him, in a simple suit, standing in the old community center. This place was a wreck back then. He looked around, didn't say much. Then he asked, 'What do they need most?' I said, 'A place to belong.' He said, 'Then let's build it.'" She paused. "He didn't write a check and leave. He stayed, helped paint walls, listened to kids, asked questions. That's when I knew he wasn't here for photo ops." Amina leaned forward. "And when things go wrong? When a student drops out? When funding falls through, how does he react?" Nia's expression softened. He gets quiet. Then he asks, "What can we do better?" Not, "Who's to blame?" Not, "Cut the program." He looks for solutions. That's rare. They filmed for nearly an hour, capturing Nia's words, her gestures, the way her eyes lit up when she spoke of the students who had gone on to college. Next was Carlos, the IT coordinator, a wiry man in his 30s with a quick laugh and a habit of speaking with his hands. "I handle the tech side," he said, "but the real work isn't in the servers. It's in the moments. Like when we set up laptops for remote tutoring during the pandemic. One kid, Jamal, lived in a shelter, no Wi-Fi. So Mr. Al-Farouk personally arranged a hotspot for him. Not through a team. He called the provider himself." Carlos shook his head. "People think billionaires don't do small things. But the small things, that's where you see the heart." By noon, they had 3 strong interviews. But as they broke for lunch, wraps from a nearby deli, they ate at folding tables in the cafeteria. Amina's phone buzzed again. Lawrence. She stepped into the hallway to answer. "We have a problem," he said, voice tight. "Khalid's team just sent a formal request. They want final approval rights." "They cite reputational risk." Amina closed her eyes. "That's not how this works." "It is now," Lawrence snapped. "They're threatening to walk if we don't agree. And if they walk, Amina, this agency is done. We've got 2 clients left who can pay our overhead. You think I wanted to come into this business just to watch it collapse?" She heard the fear in his voice, the raw fear of a man who had built his life on this company. But she couldn't back down. "Then let it collapse," she said quietly. "If the price of survival is selling out the truth, then maybe it's time to build something new," he replied coldly. "You've got until 5 in the afternoon to send them a revised proposal. Something balanced, or I pull the plug on the shoot." He hung up. Amina stood there, the phone in her hand, the weight of the moment pressing down. She thought of her team, Mateo, Elena, Julian, how hard they'd worked, how much they believed in this. She thought of Marta, Hassan, Darius, Jalen, people who trusted her with their stories. Her father, her mother, the years spent proving herself in boardrooms where no one looked like her. She walked back into the cafeteria. "We're not stopping," she said. "We keep filming. We keep building. And at 4 in the afternoon, I'm meeting with Khalid." Julian frowned. "But Lawrence said—" "I don't care what Lawrence said," she cut in. "This campaign isn't his. It's not even mine. It belongs to the people in it. And I'm not letting fear erase their voices." Elena nodded slowly. "Then we keep going." Mateo raised his coffee cup. To the real story. They clinked paper cups together. The afternoon blurred into action. They filmed Carlos setting up a new server rack, interviewed volunteers, captured B-roll of students in the tutoring lab. At 3:45, Amina stepped outside to prepare for Khalid's audio interview. The rain had stopped. She found a quiet bench beneath a sycamore tree and set up the recorder. Exactly at 4, her phone rang. "Mr. Al-Farouk," she answered. "You wanted to speak." "Amina," he said, calm. "You wanted to understand." "Yes," she said. "Not for the campaign, not for footage, just to understand." Silence. Then, "Go on." "When you walk into a room, people see a billionaire, a man with influence. But I want to know, what do you see?" He paused. "I see responsibility," he said. "I see the faces of children in Jordan. I see my father who told me, if you are given more, you owe more. I see students in Newark, Detroit, Amman, kids with the same hunger I had." His voice lowered. "I want a world where a child's future isn't based on their zip code." She felt a lump in her throat. "And when people misunderstand you? When they see wealth and assume things?" "I let them," he said. "And then I show them something else." She smiled. "That's what I want to do." A beat. Then softly. I know. They spoke for 20 minutes about his mother, his first school, and the letters he received. When they hung up, Amina sat still, the recorder in her hand, the city quiet. She had what she needed. Back at the office, the tension was palpable. Lawrence had sent another message. "Where is the revised proposal? Time is running out." She ignored it. Instead, she edited the footage. Layered in Khalid's call, added subtle music, a slow, aching cello, and cut between close-ups, Nia's hands on a report card, Carlos plugging in a cable, Khalid's voice. She wrote the final voiceover. "They say legacy is measured in buildings, wealth, name on a plaque. But sometimes legacy is a boy passing algebra, a girl stepping into a boxing ring and not flinching, a community that's seen. It's the quiet man who listens, who doesn't need credit. This isn't about power. It's about purpose. It's just beginning." She saved the file. Final cut draft. Then she opened a new email. To Lawrence Vale. CC, Elena Ruiz, Julian Park, Mateo Reyes. Subject, final campaign proposal. "Lawrence, I'm sending the unedited, truthful campaign we built. What Khalid asked for. If you submit it, do so unchanged. If not, I will." She attached the video. The clock read 11:59 in the evening. 56 hours and 1 minute remain. She leaned back, closed her eyes. Somewhere in the city, a train rumbled. A siren wailed. The lights of Manhattan glittered through the rain-streaked window. She had done everything she could. Now she waited. The fourth day dawned not with the soft graying of the sky, but with a sudden, violent crack of thunder that shook the windows of Amina's Chelsea apartment. She woke with a gasp, her body jolting upright as if pulled by an invisible string. For a disoriented moment, she didn't know where she was. Only that her heart was racing, her skin damp with sweat despite the room's chill. The dream clung to her. Lawrence tearing up her campaign proposal page by page, while Khalid Al-Farouk watched in silence, his face unreadable. She reached for her phone. 5 hours and 17 minutos. No new messages, no emails, no calls. She exhaled slowly, pressing the heels of her hands into her eyes. The storm outside had intensified. Rain lashed the building in sheets, driven sideways by wind that howled between high-rises. The city below was a blur of motionless headlights and flooding streets. Somewhere a transformer sparked, a brief blue flash, followed by the low groan of a power grid under strain. She swung her legs over the bed's edge, her feet touching the cold floor. Her body ached, not just from exhaustion, but from tension developed over the past 72 hours. She hadn't slept more than 3 hours since the confrontation in the boardroom. She pulled on a black turtleneck, thick socks, and leather jacket. The coffee maker hissed, the sound almost lost beneath the drumming rain. She poured coffee into her mug, did a splash of almond milk, and stepped into the storm. The subway was delayed. Water pooled on the platform at 14th Street. A maintenance worker in yellow vest held caution near the edge. The train arrived 10 minutes late, doors groaning open. Inside, damp coats and wet hair filled the air. A woman in a soaked blazer pressed against a pole, clutching a folder wrapped in plastic. A man in security squinted sleepily with his head tilted back. Amina found a seat, pulled out her notebook, and reviewed the plan. Final production day. 8 hours to review footage with Mateo. Finalize cuts, sync audio, color grade, sound mix, print the final version. Then a presentation. Simple, clean, executable. But nothing about this campaign had been simple. She arrived at the office at 7:52 a.m. to find the lights already on. Lawrence sat at his desk, coat still on, tie loose, staring at his monitor. He looked up as she entered. "You sent it," he said. She nodded. "I did." No yelling, no standing. Just a slow exhale, like a man releasing days of tension. "I didn't change it," he added. Forwarded it exactly as you sent. A flicker of surprise in her mind. "Why?" she asked. He rubbed his temples. "Because I watched it last night, after you sent it," he said. "It's good, Amina. Better than in years." She hesitated, unsure if she should believe it. The moment felt fragile. "And?" she pressed. "What did Khalid say?" He shook his head. "No response yet. His COO acknowledged receipt. That's all." She nodded. "Then we keep working." She moved to her desk, powered up her laptop, and the crew arrived. Matteo, Julian, Elena, damp from the rain, all quiet, urgent. They gathered in the small, dimly lit editing suite with blackout curtains and a high-end monitor. Matteo pulled up the final cut. The film was just under 13 minutes, longer than most brands, but tight and deliberate. They began the review. The opening, slow-motion shots of dawn in Newark, steam rising, a busker tuning, a child at a rain-streaked window. No music, only ambient sounds. Then Marta's voice. "This place isn't sad. It's alive." Cut to Hassan in a boxing gym, adjusting a boy's stance. "Rich men don't listen." Darius in the garden. "This taught me how to build the pond." Jalen on campus. "I almost dropped out in October." Samira soldering a circuit board. "He bet on me. I can't lose." Nia, Carlos, speaking of Khalid not as a donor but as a presence, a constant, a man who stayed. Then the shift. A slow fade to black. A pause. Then Khalid's steady voice from the interview. "I see responsibility." Archival footage. Khalid in a refugee camp, giving books, a ribbon cutting, a letter from a student. "You gave me hope." Music begins. A single cello playing a traditional Jordanian melody, minor key. Not triumphant, not celebratory, resonant. Faces of students, teachers, parents, just being seen. Amina's voiceover. "They say legacy is buildings and wealth, but sometimes a boy passes algebra." A girl steps into a boxing ring and doesn't flinch. A community that feels seen. Sometimes it's the quiet man who listens more than he speaks, doing work without needing credit. It's about purpose, and it's only just beginning. The screen faded to black. Silence. No one spoke. Elena wiped her eyes. Julian stared at the floor. Matteo leaned back, hands behind his head. "It's done," Matteo said finally. Amina exhaled. "Almost." They refined the film, adjusting color, enhancing audio, smoothing transitions. Amina directed, "Hold Jalen's face a second longer. Let the silence breathe. Bring up the rain volume in the bodega. Fade the music earlier. Let the last image breathe." By 12:43 p.m., the final version was locked. She stretched, cracked her neck, felt a flicker of peace. "We did it," she said. Julian smiled. "We really did." Elena hugged her. "You were incredible." She returned, then prepared for the presentation. Her phone buzzed. An email from Khalid's assistant. Subject, meeting confirmation, 2:45 p.m. She read it twice, knowing she'd be alone with Khalid. Not Lawrence, not the board, her. She told her team, "He's coming early, wants to see me first." Silence. Matteo grinned. "You're in." She didn't smile, feeling the weight, the meaning, the cost. At 2:15, she checked her reflection in the bathroom mirror on the 34th floor. Burgundy blouse, black blazer, mascara, lip color, prepared to be herself. At 2:43, the elevator chimed. Doors opened. Khalid emerged, alone, no entourage, no security. Charcoal overcoat, damp hair, a small leather notebook in hand. He looked at her. She looked back. "Ms. Collins," he said. "Mr. Al-Farouk," she replied. He took a step forward. "You've been busy," he said. She nodded. "We finished the cut." He asked to speak. He guided her to a small lounge near reception, rain streaking the windows behind them. They sat, neither speaking at first. He opened his notebook, placing it deliberately on the table. "I watched your proposal," he said. She waited. "It was not what I expected, but what I needed," he continued. "You showed the work and the people." She asked why she fought for this. "Because I've seen stories flattened," she explained. "People are reduced to stereotypes, success measured only by wealth or status." She recalled her childhood, being told she was articulate for a girl like her. She insisted her voice and story mattered, as did theirs. She gestured to the screen. "This campaign isn't about you. It's about what you've made possible." Khalid asked about her CEO. She admitted he wasn't convinced at first, but now saw the truth. Khalid smiled faintly. "Truth is rare in business," he said. "You risked your reputation for this." "Some things are worth the risk," she replied. He quoted his mother. "When you speak from the heart, even stones listen." Recognizing her own truth, she felt truly seen. Khalid closed his notebook. "I'll attend the presentation. I'll decide then." He rose. She followed. "One more thing," he said. "You spoke Arabic to save a deal, but you spoke truth to earn my respect." He turned towards the boardroom. Amina remained, the weight of his words settling over her like a cloak. At 2:58, the team gathered, the final cut loaded, the screen dark, lights dim. Lawrence stepped aside. Amina took her place. At exactly 3 p.m., the film played. No one moved. No one spoke. When it ended, silence. Then Khalid Al-Farouk stood. No applause, no smile. He looked at Amina. "This," he said, "is the campaign. Not because it's well made, which it is. Not because it's strategic, which it is. But because it is honest. It shows not what I have, but what I've done, and who has been lifted by it." He told Lawrence, "The investment stands, fully. I will be working directly with Ms. Collins." She looked at him. "Call me when the rollout begins." Then he left quietly. The room exhaled. Elena covered her mouth. Julian whistled softly. Mateo grinned. Lawrence approached Amina. "You did it," he said. She nodded, eyes on the blackened screen, feeling it wasn't victory, but arrival. She fought for the story. She protected the truth, and she had been truly heard. At 4:17 in the afternoon, she left the building, rain easing, clouds breaking. A street cleaner swept debris. A couple shared an umbrella, laughing over a puddle. Her phone buzzed. A message from her mother. "I felt it today, like something shifted. Are you okay?" Amina smiled. She typed back, "I'm more than okay. I'm home." She put the phone in her pocket and kept walking. The city gleamed, alive with possibility, and for the first time in a long time, she truly belonged. The morning after the presentation, Amina Collins woke not to the shrill beep of her alarm, but to sunlight. It spilled across her bedroom wall in broad golden bands, cutting through the usual city haze, painting the cracked ceiling in warm hues. The storm had passed. The air outside was crisp, the kind of April morning that carried the scent of damp earth and budding trees, the distant hum of a city exhaling after days of tension. A delivery cyclist rang his bell on the street below. A dog barked. Somewhere, a radio played a Stevie Wonder song, Higher Ground, faint but unmistakable. She lay still for a long moment, her hand resting on her chest, feeling the steady rhythm of her heart. Not racing, not clenched, just beating, present, alive. She reached for her phone. 8:03 a.m. No urgent messages. No emails marked urgent. No calls from Lawrence. Just one text, sent at 7:14 a.m., Khalid Al-Farouk. "The campaign launches today. I've approved all platforms. Let's speak at 11 a.m. I'd like to discuss long-term collaboration." She read it twice. Then she smiled. not a wide, triumphant grin. A quiet, private thing, like the sun breaking through clouds. She sat up slowly, her body still tired but no longer weighted down by dread. She walked to the window and pushed it open. The breeze was cool against her skin, carrying the sounds of the waking city. Rumbles of a garbage truck, neighbors on a fire escape, a coffee cup being set down. She made tea instead of coffee, chamomile, the kind her mother always drank when she wanted to calm her nerves. She sat at her small kitchen table, steam curling from the mug, and opened her notebook to a blank page. At the top, she wrote, "What comes next?" Then she began to list, meet with Khalid, discuss vision for year 2, expand the Newark youth program to Detroit, hire 2 new field producers, one from the community, mentor Elena for lead creative role, call Mama, tell her everything. She underlined the last one. Then she closed the notebook and took a slow sip of tea. By 10:18 a.m., she was in the office. The atmosphere had changed. It wasn't just that the lights were brighter or the air cleaner. It was the feel of the place, the way people moved, spoke, looked at one another. There was a new energy, a quiet pride. Posters of the campaign had already been printed and hung in the lobby. A close-up of Jalen's hands holding his college acceptance letter, overlaid with the words, "Legacy isn't what you leave behind, it's what you lift up." Elena was at her desk, reviewing analytics. Julian was drafting a press release. Mateo was organizing hard drives, labeling them with care. Lawrence was in his office, door open. He looked up as Amina approached. "You're late," he said, but without edge. "I'm on time," she replied. He studied her. He signed the full investment, extended it by 2 years, with a clause, "You lead all creative direction." She nodded. "I know." He leaned back. "You were right, about the campaign, about the risk. I forgot what this place was supposed to be." She didn't gloat, didn't remind him of the boardroom, of the way he'd tried to stop her. Instead, she said, "We can remember it now." He exhaled, almost a laugh. "Yeah, maybe we can." At 10:55 a.m., she walked into the boardroom where the final version of the campaign was queued up on the main screen. The room had been reconfigured. Lights softened, chairs arranged in a semicircle, not in rigid rows. This wasn't a pitch. It was a launch. By 11 a.m., the team was assembled. Lawrence sat near the back. Khalid entered precisely on time, dressed in a deep navy suit, no tie, his coat draped over one arm. He nodded to Amina, then took a seat in the front. She stood at the center. No notes, no script. "3 days ago," she began, "we were told our work wasn't authentic, that it didn't reflect the truth of who Mr. Al-Farouk is, not as a billionaire, but as a man who believes in lifting others up." She paused, letting the words settle. "We went to Newark. We listened. We filmed. We fought, not just against time, but against the instinct to play it safe. Because real impact isn't safe. It's raw. It's human." She turned to the screen. "This campaign doesn't start with a logo. It starts with people, with their voices, with their stories." She pressed play. The film unfolded as it had the day before. Marta, Hassan, Darius, Jalen, Samira, Nia, Carlos. Each face, each word, each quiet moment of resilience and hope. The music swelled gently in the final minutes, the cello weaving through Khalid's voice, through the images of students reading, building, learning, growing. When it ended, the room was silent. Then, slowly, Khalid stood. He didn't clap, didn't speak. He walked to Amina, extended his hand. She took it. "Thank you," he said quietly, so only she could hear. "You didn't just make a campaign. You honored the work." She nodded. That was the point. He stepped back, turned to the room. "This," he said, "is how change begins. Not with announcements, not with headlines, with truth. And I'm proud to stand behind it. He looked at Amina. And behind you. The team began to clap. Lawrence joined in. Even the interns watching from the hallway cheered. But Amina didn't feel the need to celebrate. Not yet. She had done what she set out to do. At 12:37 p.m., she left the office. She didn't go home. She took the subway to Queens. The train rattled through the borough, past graffiti-tagged warehouses, corner stores with faded awnings, kids playing stickball. She got off at 75th Avenue, walked 2 blocks, and stood before a small brick house with a tidy garden and a wine chime hanging by the door. Her mother opened it before she could knock. She didn't speak, just pulled Amina into a hug, tight, fierce, the kind that carried years of worry, pride, love. "I knew," she whispered. "I knew you'd do it." Amina closed her eyes. "I almost didn't, but you did." Her mother pulled back, cupping her face. "And you did it your way." They sat at the kitchen table, the same one Amina had done her homework on as a child. Her mother made tea, strong, sweet, with a slice of lemon. The radio played Arabic music softly in the background, a song Amina hadn't heard since she was a girl. "You spoke Arabic in front of them," her mother said, "just like your father wanted." Amina smiled. "He always said, 'Don't hide your voice. The world needs to hear all of you.'" "He was right," her mother said, "and so are you." They talked for hours about the campaign, Khalid, the students, the fear, the doubt, the moment in the boardroom when everything changed. "I was scared," Amina admitted, "not of failing, but of being seen, of showing them the part of me I've always kept hidden." Her mother reached across the table, took her hand. "And what happened when you did?" Amina thought of Khalid's nod, of Lawrence's quiet surrender, of her team's unwavering support. "They listened," she said. Her mother smiled. "Then you gave them a gift." At 4:16 p.m., Amina returned to the city. She stopped at the youth center in Newark. The rain had washed the streets clean. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across Springfield Avenue. The bodega was open, Marta behind the counter, handing a lollipop to a little girl. "Hey," Amina said, stepping inside. Marta looked up. "You made it." Amina nodded. "It launched this morning." Marta wiped her hands on her apron. "Good. Now people will know." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Marta said, "Diego wants to thank you. He says you made him believe." Amina felt her throat tighten. "Tell him he made me believe." She left the bodega and walked to the boxing gym. Hassan was there, wrapping a teenager's hands. "You're back," he said, "just for a minute." "Saw the video. Good work," she said. "It was theirs, not mine." She nodded. Hassan adjusted the boy's glove. "Nah, it was yours. You held the mirror." She stayed for a while, watching the kids train, the rhythm of the sport, jab, cross, slip, pivot, the discipline, the focus, the respect. At 6:15 p.m., she stood on her rooftop, looking out over Manhattan. The city was alight, skyscrapers glowing, bridges strung with gold, the East River reflecting the dusk like liquid amber. Sirens wove through the streets. A helicopter circled downtown. Somewhere, a saxophone played. Her phone buzzed. Khalid Al-Farouk. The campaign has reached 1,200,000 views in 6 hours. Donations to the foundation are up 300%. Call me tomorrow. We have more to build. She smiled. Then she typed, "I'll be ready." She slipped the phone into her pocket and looked out at the skyline. She wasn't the same woman who had stood in that boardroom 3 days ago. Afraid to speak, afraid to be seen. She was Amina Collins, daughter, storyteller, fighter. And for the first time in a long time, she wasn't just surviving, she was building. The wind lifted a strand of hair from her face. She didn't tuck it back. She let it fly. Thanks for watching and being part of this journey. Subscribe for more cinematic, character-driven stories, and give this video a like to help it reach even more people. We'd love to hear your voice. Tell us in the comments what you thought about this story, what moments stood out to you, and how it made you feel. We read every comment, and your feedback inspires the next chapters. See you in the next one.